Welcome to Keep What You Earn, your judgment and jargon-free zone for entrepreneurs of all levels. Get ready to learn how to scale your business, save money in taxes, and create a business that grows your wealth. If it feels like the financial side of business is like eating your vegetables, well, then think of this podcast as the ranch dressing to make the process a little more enjoyable. My name is Shannon Weinstein. I'm a CPA and business owner on a mission to simplify money and empower others through knowledge. I hope this episode inspires you to take action, but remember that the information we share is for educational purposes only and is not individual tax advice. Now that we got that out of the way, let's start the show. What you may not realize as a business owner is that when you're generating cash flow from your business, that is really only the first chapter of your wealth building story. It's so important to understand that. And it's really important to understand that wealth building is not as complicated as we're making it out to be. It's not only accessible to people who come from money. It's not only accessible to those under certain circumstances, that we all have the capability to build wealth. And my guest today, as he calls it, financial freedom is a birthright, and it's our job to claim it. I love that quote so much, and I'm so excited to welcome onto the show today my mentor and friend, Mel Abraham. Now, Mel is a national best-selling author, a recognized thought leader. He's a CPA. He says he's a CPA by profession, but an entrepreneur by exhilaration. I love that. And he has a powerful business podcast called The Affluent Entrepreneur. And he is going to be sharing with you today some tips on actually building your wealth outside of the business bank account, not using your business as your machine that makes you money, but as the machine that funnels cash into the money machine. And we're going to talk about that on today's show as well, how you can leverage asset investing strategies to actually build wealth, what that looks like, and why it's a lot easier than you think it is. So without further ado, let's welcome on the show, Mel Abraham. Hey, Mel, welcome back to Keep What You Earn.
Oh my God, Shannon, so good to be here.
Always happy to have you, and I'm always happy to talk to you. So for those who don't know Mel, go ahead and introduce yourself, say hello, and let them know who you are.
Yeah, so I'm a fellow CPA, and I'm Mel Abraham. I'm an entrepreneur. I actually spend a lot of time valuing businesses, but also helping entrepreneurs build their businesses and build their wealth in the process. And it's where my passion has been, but this is kind of this journey, and it's actually a journey that brought you and I together, which is always fun having a conversation with a fellow CPA, but also someone who gets my weird sense of humor, which is probably from your husband. So.
My husband and my father. I'm pretty sure you and my dad would have been dear, dear friends, a fellow CPA with a sense of humor who looks and talks like Peter Griffin. So it's
there you
better. So Mel, I know that you are a CPA. I like that you lead in with that. I usually lead within that too, but I think we're both kind of these entrepreneurial CPAs, not the typical accountants who will just like share the most conservative, types of advice that help people save money in taxes, protect yourself. It's kind of that fear-centric and risk avoidant advice that we typically hear from accountants. But you and I have a little bit of a different perception of it. What do you think makes you different than, let's say, a typical CPA if people associate some type of profile or personality with a CPA?
I think why I ended up here is I had the fortunate opportunity to have a really good mentor who was an entrepreneurial CPA. He was doing real estate development. He was doing deals, and he always kind of nurtured me to, he's the person that I was still in college and said to me, hey, just go take the CPA exam so you can take it for practice. Like who does that? You're going to go spend 4 days. Now back then it was all done by hand, no calculators. And I said,
at the same time.
Yeah. I was like, it was a long time ago. It was just a step above stone tablets. And so he got me to just kind of go out on a limb to do those things. And I think that kind of lit a fire under me about this idea of get the skills that a CPA has, get the skills of business, get the language of business, get the skills of money, get the skills of all of that, and then look for the audience where I could serve with those skills at the greatest level. And I think that's the thing that kind of came out of that. Was all along, I don't think that I was destined to be in a big firm for very long.
Yeah, the same with me. But I think I learned that being in a big firm after a while, and I realized that I was uncomfortable and I really wanted to help more people. I didn't feel like I was using my talents to their fullest extent. And I
Yeah.
just realized I could be happier doing something better and more productive with my time. And that led me into the path of entrepreneurship, which I've told that story a million times here. But I want to talk about there's the entrepreneurial mindset, right? We love running, building businesses. It lights us up. It's like, and especially somebody in your position, Mel, you don't need to do all this. I mean, you've
Yeah.
accumulated a decent amount of wealth over your years, and you know what to do with your money, and to still start businesses even then. That is the entrepreneurial spirit where it's like I don't want out of the game. There is no winning unless you're playing,
Yeah.
and that's the whole fun of it, right? But there are a lot of entrepreneurs out there who are using their business as the way to build wealth. And it's a great starting point, but I want to talk about that, of like how businesses and business ownership and wealth are connected.
Yeah. So here's the way I look at it is because I had thought about this also is when I left, I decided I was going to go start my own firm. I was going to do my own thing. I wanted to be in control. I wanted to have freedom. I wanted to be able to do my own thing. And yet none of that happened. I was totally out of control. I was beholden to the clients. I didn't have freedom. I didn't have any of that because I was so immersed and entrenched in building the business that I forgot to try and build a life. And that was a big issue. And I think that I've seen it repeatedly with entrepreneurs that will put things off and say, all right, I've got to do this now. And I get it. We got to dedicate ourselves to building the business. But if we forsake too much of our life, our health, our relationships and all that, the cost is too great. And this is where I started to understand this dynamic of, oh, the business was never meant for freedom. The business was never meant for control. The business was meant to create a solution to a problem and to get paid for that solution and have an impact. That's it. So if I understand that the business is to create cash flow while giving a solution to the world, then we got to sit back and say, oh, if the business isn't truly my wealth, then what is? And I think that's the question we should be looking at as an entrepreneur, because you have to run two journeys. You have to run the earnings journey, the business journey, which is the cash flow journey, but you have to run the money journey. That's the asset journey. That's where your freedom is. That's where your control is. That's where you get your time back. And that's where your legacy lives.
Absolutely. And that's what I tell clients all the time. I tell folks that are listening to the show all the time that there is, I mean, for me as a fractional CFO, right, we're managing everything before it exits the bank account. We can only do so much to keep the business alive, healthy, thriving, and doing what you want to do within the business and paying you enough based on that cash flow need that you'll be able to build wealth with that. But what's interesting is I can't really advise on, or I'm not in the position where I feel qualified to advise on what to do with that money after it leaves that account, right?
Yeah.
Because now there's other professionals that you can engage and other experts on what to do with your money. Talk a little bit about where do you draw that line? Like, do you tell your clients and customers, give them advice on what to do with their money as they invest?
With my clients, yes, I do, but I do it in conjunction with a financial team, just like myself. I can run my own stuff, but I have a wealth team. And part of it is that too often we might not see all the shadows, but if we bring other people in, we get a chance to see it. So I have a team that helps me and I work with the team. I'm almost like, as much as you're a fractional CFO for businesses, I'm kind of a fractional CFO for families.
Right.
And that's really what it is, where I'm working with their legal team. I'm working with their financial advisors, but I have the picture of the whole vision for them. I have the picture of where they want to go because of my CPA background. Because here's where the challenge is that you'll get a financial advisor that says, when the money leaves the bank account, like you say, it comes in. Now they do something with it, but they don't look at if they do something with it on the wealth side, that it could impact the business or there's a way to use the business. And so I come at it by looking at both the business and the the personal side, I don't do the fractional CFO stuff, but I would work with you to do that and say, all right, we're going to work the business. How do we do this in the business so we can also build the wealth at the same time?
Exactly. Yeah. And you have this phrase, you always talk about money machine,
Yeah.
right? Like you've always talked to me about this, like building a money machine. And I think that people, if you're listening to that phrase, what is your money machine? Many people listening are going to think my money machine is my business.
Yeah. It's not. It's your money machine. Your business is a cash flow machine. It's what we do with the cash flow that comes out of the business that builds this money machine. We're going to use it, to put it bluntly, we're just going to buy assets. But what we're buying is not assets where you have to run the miles to get the earnings out of it. See, your business, you got to run the miles to get the earnings out of it until you scale it to scale. But by and large, we're running a lot of miles. So the question, and I don't believe in passive income. I think that whenever our relationship to our business and our relationship to our money is just that, a relationship. And if we ever take a passive view to our business or our money, just like any relationship, it will wither and die. So I believe in leveraging it. How much time does it take? How much effort does it take of you to bring in that income? So when we talk about leveraging that business or leveraging the cash flow, it's all I'm going to do is I'm going to take money from the business. I'm going to get assets, and we can talk about the different types of assets. And those assets are going to generate income, but I don't have to spend as much time. It's not a one-on-one relationship of swapping hours for dollars to do that. Because just a story for me. I mean, in 2019, I got diagnosed with cancer, shut everything down, shut my businesses down. We stopped everything, but I had a money machine that was basically an ATM. I told my wealth team, I said, instead of reinvesting the cash that we're generating in the money machine and building it bigger, give me half of it. Because that's all I needed to keep our lifestyle without selling, without draining, without shrinking, without doing any of that stuff. So give me half of it and we'll continue to live. And we shut the business machine down, but we had this money machine that was like an ATM that could do it because we built it big enough to make that happen. And then once I was healthy, we shut that machine down, said reinvest 100% of it. We're picking the business back up again. And that's when you have a money machine in place, what you really do is buy your time and your choice back in your life.
Completely agree. Let's talk about the assets, though, the types of assets you mentioned and what that money machine was for you, because I think people conceptually understand the idea of something that is cash flowing, but maybe some examples will help too on how people can achieve this, because I think for many it feels untouchable, or it feels this thing that the wealthy have access to that they don't.
Yeah.
So I want to bring that back to earth for folks and have them realize that, maybe I shouldn't say easy, but how simple it is to implement this type of thing. So let's talk about the types of assets and then specifically how that relates into the definition of a money machine.
Cool. So for me, just real quick so people know, I didn't come from money. My dad was an aerospace engineer. I'm a son of an immigrant family, and he came here with nothing at 17 years old, and he got a degree and he was an engineer. So it wasn't like anything was handed to me. So that's one piece of it. But I think that when we start to look at income, I think there's 5 incomes that you can have. And the first income level, and as you move up this ladder, the level of effort and time from you goes down. You get leverage. Now, at the beginning, it's active income. That's an employee. That's a solopreneur. It is like you are one in there and you are driving the income. That takes a lot of effort. The second level of income that you can create is when you move to what I call business income. Now, all of a sudden, we're starting to scale. We have people in between. We aren't 100% of the business. We're no longer the sole generator. We've got people in place to make that happen. So it's a little leverage, but you still are instrumental to do it. It's these last 3 that really start to get you your choice back and where I want you to build the machine from. The next level of leverage is asset-based income. Asset-based income is going to be things like buying real estate that's going to pay you rents, or other things like I've got a client that rents equipment and gets rent. So he buys equipment and he rents it to the movie studios, which he's not doing a lot of renting right now because of the strike. But the reality is that you can buy equipment, you can buy real estate, you can buy things and rent it. I have another client that has transportation equipment that he rents. So the thing is that you're going to buy something and then you'll be able to put it out there and get rents for it without as much effort. So that's the third level. The fourth level is what I call residual income. That's where you create something once and you can get paid on it repeatedly. And that could be anything from my books. I get paid a royalty. I just got a royalty check. I could white label software or a technology. I could white label a course and I get paid. So I create something once and I can put it out there and get paid on it repeatedly. Downlines of a network marketing or direct sales organization can be considered residual income. It takes a while to get it rolling, but once it's rolling, it takes a lot less to keep it moving. Okay. So that's residual income. And then the third level or the fifth level, but in the leverage point is portfolio income. This is stocks, this is bonds, it's ETFs, it's index funds, it's annuities, it's things like that. It's what I would call paper assets. It's the most hands-off, effort-off type of asset that is out there. And so now people will say, okay, so what should I build my money machine on? And I said, it depends on your lifestyle. So let's just talk about my money machine. Okay. 95% of it, probably 90%. Let's call it 90%. 90% of it is in portfolio income and residual income. The rest is in real estate. And the only reason I have real estate holdings, but I don't have a ton of real estate holdings, primarily because I don't want to be a landlord. I don't want to call at 11 o'clock at night that say the toilet's clogged. Well, freaking get a plunger. I don't know. I'm not a plumber, you know? And so what I did is I chose assets that would support the lifestyle that I wanted. And so the key is this. You have active and you have business. That takes a lot of effort. Okay. That's where we start. I want to build a money machine on the top three: assets, residual, and portfolio. And at some point in your life, what I want is those top three to be able to pay for 80 to more than 80% of your lifestyle. Because when you have that in place, you have the money machine that you can flip the switch on and have it cash flow out, and you don't change your lifestyle at all. But when we don't, now we're struggling because the only way out is the fact that I was doing work and now I can't do work anymore.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people find themselves in that position. I've talked to a lot of business owners, in particular accounting firm owners, and you know this because you've been in this industry. How many accounting firm owners never thought what is going to happen to me when I don't want to do this anymore? And they've been, I mean, they're in their 60s, 70s, even 80s, still running their accounting practices and still doing tax returns themselves. And
Yeah.
they don't, and they're looking at selling their clients or figuring out what to do. I can't tell you how many Facebook posts I see in the group saying, I don't know what to do. I don't want to do this anymore. Does anyone want my clients? And that's the grand exit. It was really, it's kind of just handing it out and saying, hey, someone else take this from me. And I'm looking at this going, this was a way to occupy your time for 40 years. You know, it may have cash flowed your lifestyle, but I'm going, what do they have to show for it in the way of how is it going to feed the next 20 years, right? Because we're living longer. So it hit me very quickly when I started seeing this happen. And I was thinking, wow, they're right. You really do have to plan for what's going to happen if you can't be the active income generator anymore.
Well, we have to. I had 3 times in my life where I had challenges with generating income because of 2 injuries and 1 was cancer. All right. Now the injuries, the way I got through that was I had a disability policy, which is another conversation. But when I had a disability policy that would support that. But that was when I started to realize, just like you said, oh, wow, this is one of those treadmills that isn't electronic. It's one of them treadmills that if I'm not running on it, it stops. And if it stops, so does the cash flow. And so I had to really figure out how do you do that. And it's kind of a philosophy, but it's a saying I have that our money decisions today should be in service of the financial future we want tomorrow. And too often we're making present day decisions without understanding the impact of our future.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it's, I compared it to, I said, remember if you go back to your, I don't know, 12, 13-year-old self, most people my age too, I go, hey,
It was a long time ago for me here. You know that.
I know, a 12, 13-year-old self and say, hey, moisturize your damn face, put your sunscreen on, right? How many of us now, and I guess we'll call me middle-aged, but like how many people how many people my age that would go, oh my God, I wish I could just tell my 13, 14-year-old self to stop washing her face with that crap and put moisturizer on and do this. It's the same type of thing. It's like you don't realize what the decisions you're doing today are going to impact you until it happens, until you get there. And you can't change it. You can't go back. So you have to start learning about how this is going to impact you. The problem is that it's our human nature. We don't think about what's going to happen in the future. We're very much living in the present in a reactive way.
I remember, so I graduated high school in 79. Okay. And this gal, it was prom time. You talk about, you don't realize what it would do. She wanted to be tan for the prom.
Yeah.
So, back then we had the Hawaiian tropics. It smelled like coconut oil. And, so she put that oil all over her and she went up on the roof of the house, evidently, and she spread all this aluminum foil around.
She created a toaster oven.
Oh my God. She was so red. And I'm like going, well, what are you thinking? It's like, it has nothing to do with our conversation, except that sometimes we don't think about the long-term impact of our decisions.
Absolutely not. But there are people doing the financial equivalent of that, really. Like they're doing the immediate, well, this is what I need to do now to get rich. I mean, I can't crap on crypto, but look what happened with crypto. People just jumped on that bandwagon out of the gate. And it's like, I was sitting back going, let me just wait for it. Wait for it. But people who are very reactive, they're trying to get in on the trend. And I saw this quote recently. I want to say it was Hormozy, but I can't remember. But I saw this sort of tweet that said, if everyone's getting rich off of something, you're already too late.
Oh, ain't that the truth?
Yeah. If they're getting rich off of it, you're too late anyway. So let's talk about sustainable, wealthy habits, because what is working? What are you seeing people successful with besides yourself? I know that you have a ton of experience with this, but you also work with a lot of folks who are trying to build their own wealth.
Wealth creation is never an adrenaline rush. And if it is, you're in the wrong game. All right. It's boring. All right. Mm-hmm. It's a long-term game. And there is something that I call the wealth flat line. And that is when you first start, you're putting money and you're doing a lot of effort. It's like getting a stalled car running. You don't see that the fruits of your labor, and you'll go for 3-4 years and go, shit, sorry about that.
That's fine. We have an E rating for a reason.
Oh, good.
It's my show, Mel. You know me.
There you go. You say, dang it, I just made $67. This doesn't work. Mm-hmm. And the problem is that there's this wealth flat line that no matter where you start, you have to go through it. And the only way to get through it is time. And that means that you need to be systematic and persistent about your investing, whether it's going to be in real estate. And I'll tell you where I would start if you're just starting out, or ETFs, index funds, whatever it is, it needs to be systematic and persistent over time. Eat up the wealth flat line, because the only way to get through that is time. On the other side, you get the acceleration. Think about this. My son is 33 years old. His wife is 30. They've got 2 kids. They've got 3 homes, and they got a multi-million-dollar net worth. And the reason for it is they started early. They started at 16 and they got through the wealth flat line. And so every dollar that gets put away at 20 will turn into $88 by the time you're 65. If you wait till 30, it turns into $23. Still a big game, but you lost 60 times. So the point is that it goes back to, I wish I would have known at my 13-year-old self, but get in the game and stay in the game, however you want to play the game. So the first piece of wealth creation is to understand that it has nothing to do with the money. It has everything to do with behaviors. No one has money issues. They have money symptoms, and their symptoms of the behaviors, the choices, and the decisions they made. So that's the first thing. So the second is, well, what behaviors do you need to have? And the first behavior is this: investing must be a priority over current lifestyle. So now, if we're talking about an entrepreneur, I tell entrepreneurs, your investing needs to be, not that it really is in the tax return, I mean, unless it's a pension, but it needs to be a line item on your P&L, that you are intentionally allocating money towards that money machine. Otherwise, if you are waiting to see what's left over, you are creating a future on the scraps. And they say, well, I don't have enough money coming in to do that. Well, remember, it's a behavior. So I'm not as worried at the beginning of whether it's $1,000 or $5. I'm worried at the beginning that you're not exercising the muscle. So I want you to exercise the muscle and make it a priority. We'll get the $5 to 10 to 100 to 1,000 to 10,000 over time. Because the beautiful thing, especially with the clients that are working with someone like you and yourself, is that if you look at it and go, I don't have enough to build my future on this, great, let's go back to the drawing board and let's revamp the strategy and create more income so we can have the lifestyle we want today and the future we want tomorrow.
Exactly.
And so that's the second piece is to make it a priority. Then the third piece is this, is if I get really tactical, the first thing that I'm going to tell people to do is I want 1 month's or $1,500 in cash sitting in a high yield cash account. It is not an emergency fund. This is a transmission broke, I need medical deductibles, oh my God, unplanned, and I don't have to go into debt fund. It is a comfort fund. The second piece of that is now we start to look at, I want to build what I call a peace of mind fund versus an emergency fund. And for entrepreneurs, this is conservative, but it's important, and the pandemic proved it out. I want 9 to 18 months, so call it 12 months in there, because as a business, it may take us a little while to ramp up. It's not about going and finding a job. And so if the first 3 months you're freaking out, well, then the second 3 months you're strategizing and trying to get it done, then 3 to 6 months isn't enough. The next 3 months, you're really trying to get things rolling. And the next 3 months, you got things going. And that's where I kind of came up with it. It's arbitrary, but it proved itself out during the pandemic. And so that's where I would go. Now is when I would say, all right, now we can start to look at investing. And now people will say, well, I like real estate. And I like real estate too. And here's why I will tell people I would prefer you go into an ETF or an index fund first. It's easier to get in. It's more liquid. There's less friction costs, and you have built-in diversification. So if I have $50,000 to invest, and I can have the choice of putting $50,000 on a piece of property or $50,000 into a diversified ETF or index fund, I would choose the index fund because that gives me a basket of 500 stocks versus the real estate because that gives me one property. And if there's a problem with a property, like I was just talking to someone here that was doing some remodel and they found mold. So they're taking everything down the studs. Well, now they've got more costs, they got no rent, and it's going to take longer. And so if I have a single property, I have more risk. And my job really is to say, how do I reduce the risk, maximize the returns over the long term? And so this is why I will say real estate for me, other than a residence, is a down the line investment. I would start getting the practice in an ETF, an index fund, or something like that to begin with.
Totally agree. And it's, like you said, it's dependent on lifestyle.
Yep.
Right? Because there are some folks who love being involved in making their money. They actually want to remain involved and remain engaged. And I think that real estate is great for a lot of folks because there are some people who really do enjoy the renovation and enjoy the flipping or enjoy whatever strategy they're doing, and they're good at it. I'm just like you. I do not want to be a landlady at all. I don't want to have to call plumbers or do anything like that. And I think it's really important to know what your strengths are. in order to build that. And that's the hard part about giving advice, is saying, like, and I hate being that person who has to do the cop out every time, just like you probably do, just going, depends what you like. Like, it always depends.
Yeah.
And it's not very helpful, but it's truly understanding your self-awareness of what your best way to build wealth will be, that will also not take away your joy in the process.
It's so true. And I love that you said that, in the process, because if the purpose of us building the wealth is to have a specific lifestyle, then why shouldn't we be building the wealth in the way that supports the lifestyle, that we're actually living the lifestyle? Otherwise, we're building wealth in a way that we hate, or it's stressful, it's problematic. It's not going to be sustainable, because by the time we get there, you're burned. And so I think that you have to look at it through the eyes of what makes sense for me. I've got a friend that doesn't have much in the stocks. He's got multiple properties. He came from a real estate family. He loves real estate. He loves getting his hands dirty. He loves doing the cabinet work. He loves doing and tinkering around. Not me. I want nothing to do with it. If there's a problem in the house, I get it fixed with a phone call.
Yes. And I think after my experience building in Costa Rica, I'm in your camp as well, because I had to do that in Spanish.
Oh my God.
Yes. So, and the other thing I want to add to everything you just layered on, like, I echo 1,000%. What I will add on, though, is when it comes to investing, to do what you understand.
Oh, huge.
To put your money where you understand. One of my number one things, my clients come to me all the time. There were clients coming to me with these like crazy ass Amazon schemes, the Walmarts, the I put money in and it comes out. This is amazing. And I go, oh yeah, because there's a thing that just does that, right? It's basically a slot machine that never loses. Is that what you're telling me? Like, you put a quarter in and you get dollars out. So clients coming to me left and right saying, there's this thing, I want to do it, I want to invest in it. And I'm like, how does it make you money? And they can't explain it. And that was one of my dead giveaways, where I go, if you cannot explain to me how you make money in a logical way, no. And you don't understand it.
It's one of my rules. You never, ever, ever invest in something you don't understand. And if the person isn't willing to explain it to you 100 ways from Sunday so you do understand, then it's not the right investment. I don't care if it goes to the moon. You don't do it. That's how I got caught in a Ponzi scheme. I wiped out 1/3 of my net worth because I did not, 2 things I didn't do. I didn't understand the investment completely. 3 things. I didn't follow my rules. Okay. And I kind of ignored, I allowed the emotions to take hold of me. You know, so when you're
a CPA, let's just
let me tell you, it was such a hard thing for me to come back from, not money wise, but psychologically, because I sat back and started saying, you're such a loser. You're such an idiot. Why? You know, and it wasn't until I started to examine it and kind of do an autopsy on it and say, what did I learn? What are the rules that I'm going to follow from here on out? What are the things that are going to keep me and my clients safe? And that's when I started to put these rules in place. And I will let investments go if I don't understand them, if I don't like them, or I can't follow the bias. Because inevitably, if someone's selling you an investment, there's a bias there. So what's the bias? Who's getting paid? Where does the money go?
Exactly. Follow the money.
Yeah.
How does the money flow? That was my question, was, okay, you put money in, then what happens? And then these people get paid. Okay. And then what happens? And then this happens. Okay. And I go, and when do you get the money back? Like, oh, well, you know, they told me. Oh, okay. So it's kind of this, and I'm not shaming anyone who's gone through this, but I'm just saying that you have to ask the right questions, because nobody is going to come save you or protect you from these types of decisions. Like, you're going to be faced with these types of decisions constantly. There's no shortage of ways to spend your money, and you have to take ownership of that choice.
And I think in our current economic environment, and with technology and access and everything, you're going to see a lot more of these kinds of scams going on.
Yeah.
So having someone like you in their court that's going to ask the hard questions, be a little bit pointed with them, you are such a godsend to them. to be able to be that champion that's going to go in and say, no, hold on a second, before we do anything, I need you to explain these things.
I appreciate that. The word champion instead of buzzkill. I really appreciate that.
I have been accused of always pissing on people's parades, but I said my primary job is to keep you safe, because then you can go do something another day.
Yeah, and not for nothing. I mean, you and I are both not super conservative CPAs when it comes to certain things. So it's more about it. When we say we're here to protect you, we're here to manage the risk a little bit and make you aware of what it is you're getting into, and to ask some of those thought-provoking questions about why are we doing this? What purpose is it serving? What goal is this serving? So that we can really connect it back to, is this a good idea that will move you forward in the right direction?
Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah. So Mel, tell me about what you have going on right now so that you can help entrepreneurs just like those listening, and how they can find out more from you and learn from you. Because you guys, if you can't tell by now, Mel is just a wealth of knowledge, but also I love the way you explain these concepts and how you teach. It's one of the reasons why I gravitated to you immediately. Tell folks how they can learn more from you.
What I've got coming up is a 3-day live training called the Affluent Entrepreneur Experience. It is me going deep dive over 3 different trainings, giving you frameworks, processes, priorities, and principles that will allow you to start to build that money machine and give you the frameworks that you need to do it. We'll give you an action guide. It's totally free. Okay. Action guide to go through and fill out. You'll start to calculate your number that you need for that financial freedom. And you'll have the things in place. You'll know kind of a checklist of what you need to get in place to make that happen. It's one of the things that I love doing, because I truly believe that financial freedom is a birthright, and we are not having the conversations enough to give people the path to claim it. And that's kind of been my calling, at least what I feel I'm called to do in this new season of life for me. And so that's what we're doing. They can get access. I think we can put some links below and make sure that they get access to that. And you can always reach out to me also at Mel Abraham 9 on Instagram. I'm there, and I'm here to support that whole journey.
And he'll never DM you crypto scams. That's not him. If that other ghost Mel is DMing you, I've had that happen a couple times.
Oh my God. I look at how many fake accounts have come up. I wish I was that popular in high school. In college, I just was.
You are like the number one fake account that somehow finds me, that it's like Mel Abraham 8. And I'm like, you didn't get me. I know he's 9. So Mel Abraham 9 on Instagram, you guys, don't be fooled. If he's sending you some stuff, let him know. Mel Abraham 9, and make sure one more time, the name of the event that you're going to be hosting, and we're going to definitely have a link in the show notes, but one more time.
The Affluent Entrepreneur Experience.
Amazing. Yeah. Guys, join me there. I'm going to be there as well. I can't wait to support Mel and to see him live doing his thing. I always love hearing you speak. I love learning from you. I always learn something new from you and take away some amazing golden nugget from what you say. So thank you so much for being on the show today and always sharing those with me. I feel so grateful that I have access to you to be able to ask you these questions. So this is amazing.
Thank you so much, Shannon. It's such a blessing to be on this journey with you. Thank you again.
If you're an entrepreneur who's just starting out, it can be overwhelming to think about all the responsibilities you have when it comes to financial management and taxes. Even if you've been binging this podcast, implementing all of it can be really stressful if you don't have a clear list of action steps and know exactly what you should be doing right now. Luckily, we organized all of this for you in the Business Financial Quick Starter. This is your one-stop shop for beginning steps of entrepreneurship, so you can build your business confidently from day one. This is not me teaching accounting, no way. It's a specific set of essential action steps to save you a lot of time, money, and headaches as you embark on your own entrepreneurship journey. We cover everything from setting up your business bank account all the way through avoiding a surprise tax bill. Now, as a podcast listener, you get 10% off with code KEEPWHATYOUEARN, all one word. So dive in now and access your Business Financial Quick Starter. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a rating and review on your podcast platform. This small action goes a long way for podcasters to get our message heard by more business owners just like you. Be sure to check out the show notes for links to information about our guests and ways to get in touch with me. We'll see you on the next episode.